This is the MHS Pawdcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new year, year number 4 of the Metuchen High School podcast, the online radio voice of Metuchen High School. We're back for another year. We're all seniors. We've got a couple new members as well. Eddie Kalegi here with Josh Hyman. Julia Hirschfield is one of our new members as well. We'll be joined by another one, Joe Stibich, later on in today's show. 2 guest interviews to kick off the year. Mr. Messenger will be joining us in a little bit to talk about marching band. They're still doing it this year, but the marchers will actually be social distance during their show. We'll find out all about that. And then our first club spotlight of the year will be the Entrepreneurship Club, and we'll have Phil Xie coming here. He's the president of the club, talk about it as their meetings get started next week. But the first thing I wanted to talk about, it's been a weird first 2 weeks of the school year. It's remote learning, but it's different than what we did junior year. Josh, I'll start with you. Just how have you been able to adjust to this new style of remote learning that we have right now?
So a few things I've done is I've designated one part of my house to do all my work in, so I know where everything is and I don't get confused. So that's one thing I've done. I also have all my books ready and I get dressed for the day so it doesn't feel like I'm just doing absolutely nothing day in, day out. I go for walks during lunch or during the class changes. So I just try to keep it as normal, I guess, as I can. It's been kind of tough. I feel like it's missing something that you get in school, and I'm not really a fan of it. I feel like the classes just feel like they drag on forever. But I don't know. I'm not really a fan of online learning, but I guess it's what we have for now, so
Yeah, definitely. It's what we have for now and kind of what we have to deal with, because not just the safety thing, but also just what the school was talking about, with air conditioning and stuff. Frankly, I'd rather be, with the proper ventilation, and it's kind of nice not being there when it's 95 degrees in the physics room. But Julia, I'll turn it over to you. How has this first 2 weeks been for you so far?
I'm still definitely getting used to it. I'm not a huge fan of online learning either, but like Josh, I've tried to kind of create a sense of normalcy by dressing up every day and having a space. But I don't know, the classes feel a little shorter than they did when they were in person. The information blends together a little bit more. So it's definitely not ideal, but I know we're all working really hard to make the best out of this situation.
Yeah, it's also difficult for the teachers too. Give some credit to them, because just making this adjustment, they've all talked about how, they feed off of response from the students in the class. Sometimes we all just stare blankly at them, but other times, there's that sense of they're understanding it. But when you're just looking at 20 faces on a computer screen like the Brady Bunch, it's not really working that way. But the one thing that people are trying to look optimistically towards is the October 1st date, where optionally you can start going into the school on an A-B basis. We don't know for sure if that's going to happen yet, because we've already heard different schools. There's been, I think, 5 schools so far in New Jersey that have had positive COVID tests and have had to shut down and go back to all remote. Josh, do you think we're going to be able to go in October 1st, or do you think it's going to be a longer road ahead?
Hard to say, because as you said, even in New Jersey, which as of recently has been pretty good about it, if they're getting tests, Metuchen does not want to take any chances. I remember when we got 3 positive tests, they shut down our soccer practices and told us we couldn't go in. So I don't know. I doubt that we're going to go back, though. If all these schools are trying it and they're immediately getting tests, I doubt it, just because our town really wants to stamp this thing out.
Yeah, and overall our town has done a good job staying on top of it. Metuchen's cases are pretty low compared to the rest of the county, but we're going to shift away from that. Despite being online, we still have school to talk about, and we'll start with the school announcements right here from Julia Hirschfield.
Thank you, Eddie. So, various Metuchen fall sports teams are currently selling merch and apparel, including masks. Check out Metuchen Football's virtual team store through their Twitter account at Metuchen HS Foot1 and other teams on the school website. The next Board of Education meeting is Tuesday, September 22nd at 8 p.m. in the MHS auditorium. Lastly, a reminder that there is no school on Monday, September 28th for the observance of Yom Kippur. That's all for announcements.
Thank you, Julia. And moving on to sports, there's not much to talk about on the realm of sports. The season is scheduled to start in 2 weeks. Practices officially just started this week. I'll talk to Josh about that in a moment. But yeah, so there's that. And one other announcement, a shout out to Sarah Yoakum, who's the coach of the Metuchen High School cheerleading team. She was one of 2 New Jersey coaches honored for Cheerleading Coach of the Year in the state. The program was pretty new 2 years ago and ended up beating the defending state champ, St. Thomas Aquinas, and had a great year last year. So congratulations to Miss Yoakum. So before we get Mr. Messenger in here, one last thing. Josh, I know you're on the soccer team. You guys were doing workouts throughout August, but this week, I believe, was when official practices began. So just walk us through what the whole process has been so far for you guys this fall.
Yeah, so 4 weeks ago we started like a kind of preseason thing, just to like shake off the rust, get everyone in shape, and get touches on the ball, you know. And then after that, there was a 2-week mandatory no practice period, starting from like August 14th, I believe, to the start of the year. So now Monday was supposed to be our first day. We didn't have practice that day. But yeah, today was our first official day of practice. You know, we did our fitness testing, we did our scrimmaging, all that great stuff. The cross country team was out there as well, and I believe the field hockey team is starting now. So yeah, it's we're in preseason, and I know for the soccer team we're allowed 1 scrimmage, and that's going to be against Edison. I don't know if that's going to be home or away, but after that we have our regular season starting October 1st.
Yeah, so October 1st is when everything kicks off. Everything, even football in New Jersey, is currently scheduled. That is all subject to change. But right now, the NJSIAA has put in some pretty good procedures to make sports possible. And for now, it's working out pretty well statewide. So let's get into our first interview coming up here with Mr. Messenger. Continuing here on the Metuchen High School podcast, the online radio voice of MHS, I'm Eddie Kalegi with Julia Hirschfield. It's great to be joined today by Director of Bands here at Metuchen High School. We've had him every year. We've got him again. Mr. John Messenger, thanks so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So before we discuss the marching band, how has band class been over Zoom?
I mean, so far, it's been pretty good. We're just setting up how things are going to be over the first month, so that everyone knows how we're going to do class both virtually, and then hopefully October 1st, once the hybrid kicks in, we'll be able to do a little bit of both, of playing in person and then also playing online. But right now we're doing a lot of music theory, and we're doing some music listening, and we're doing some other music skills while we wait to begin playing.
So shifting over to marching band, I'm not in the marching band, I'm in the concert band, but I've always heard from the kids in marching band how they really enjoy band camp in the summer, which is a unique experience, for like an immersive experience where everybody in the marching band goes away for a few days, gets to practice, gets to bond with each other. But I know that annual tradition must have been different this year. How did you guys work through it this year?
We basically modified what our normal band camp would be and just split it up over the summer. As soon as we were allowed to, we started having rehearsals kind of a little bit at a time, and then still doing a lot of the stuff we would do at camp, a lot of the bonding and experiences and stuff like that, just on a local scale right here at the home of the Bulldogs. So it was definitely different, but I think the kids still got a great experience. The band still got up and running and is looking and sounding great so far.
So obviously this season will be different because of COVID. What does your schedule look like?
Actually, we were very fortunate that both of our competitive circuits, both tournament of bands and US bands, decided to do a virtual competition option for everybody, and you could enter in many different ways depending on what your situation is. You can enter via the full band, you can enter just via the pep band, just your drum line. It really depends on your situation. We're lucky that we're going to be entering in the full marching band category right now, and basically the way it is you submit a recording, a video recording of your band, and then you get judged just like you would at a competition. It gets sent to 3 judges. They critique it. They send you back the critique. They send you back your rating. So it's a pretty cool experience. The only thing that's missing is actually performing live in front of judges, but it is the next best thing. And the really cool thing about it is it's allowed us to enter contests that are very not local. We entered one in October at the University of Central Missouri, which obviously we would never drive out to Missouri, but there's 100 bands entered into that one. There's a lot of local bands entered into the US Band Series. So we're excited to do our virtual band competitions. It'll keep us practicing. It'll keep us motivated throughout the season. And then we're really excited that football is going to be back at Metuchen High School Stadium. We'll be at our 3 home games in a modified version, but the band will be there and we'll be playing our pep music and cheering on the football team and supporting the cheerleaders. So it looks like we'll have some home football games, and it looks like we'll be running some virtual competitions as well.
So everybody's been talking about with fall sports, with like the NJSIAA, like the procedures, the safety guidelines that they have to obey. I know you guys have been having some in-person practices, so just how does that all work out with instruments and just getting everybody there and being able to practice while also doing it safely?
It's following a bunch of guidelines. Not only are we following the athletic guidelines, we're also following the NJ Arts performance guidelines for safety. So we're kind of doing a hybrid of both the music safety and the athletic safety. That involved right early on teaching the kids how to warm up in pods instead of in one large group. It involved getting bell covers and performance masks, which are masks that you can play with. They have a slot that allows the instrument to go so that you can play. It involved us setting up our drill so that the kids were always going to be 6 feet apart from each other, and also 6 feet from side to side and front to back, which was a challenge. And it also set up how we do drill. It's not just running around the field, it's figuring out how to teach to drill forwards and backwards so that the kids are following a safe path. And we also reduced the time of our field show for this year. Instead of doing our normal 7 to 8 minute show, we reduced it down to 4 minutes and change, just to make it possible with limited rehearsal schedules. So everyone is getting the feel for a competitive marching band, just trying to follow the safety guidelines and keeping everyone safe while they're performing and practicing.
There have been certain students in the past that have written pieces for the band. Is that happening this year? And if so, who?
Well, Julian Osa is a big band composer. He hasn't written anything for this year's field show, but he is one of our 3 drum majors, so he is conducting and contributing in a big way. It looks like he might be writing stuff for small ensembles, for concert band, for maybe some of our indoor virtual recitals, and he's also working on some concert band stuff, which is awesome. We have an independent study together in composition, so he's been working on stuff, but he's still very actively writing for the group. As are a bunch of kids have really stepped up and started learning how to write and arrange, and it's a bug that a bunch of kids have gotten now, and they're experimenting with playing stuff with their friends and really making the most of being quarantined by doing virtual videos and virtual composition. So I'm excited to hear what's coming up this season and for this year.
Mr. Messenger, best of luck going forwards. I know it's a lot of tough work for you along with all the other teachers, but I mean, not just with your class, also with marching band, but privileged to have the opportunity for virtual performances, as well as getting to do the 3 football games this year. So best of luck heading through the rest of the fall.
I appreciate you guys taking the time to talk.
All right, so when we come back, Phil Xie will join me and Joe Stibich to preview the Entrepreneurship Club. Let's head to a commercial break. This is the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS.
Having trouble seeing the board in class? Do you need safety glasses for your school sport? If you answered yes to either of these questions, head over to Optique Unique, the eyeglass store at 406 Main Street in Metuchen. Optique Unique does it all. Not only do they offer eyewear for all ages, they also sell sports-specific safety glasses for kids and adults. Call them at 732-321-2020. That's 732-321-2020, or visit OptiqueUnique.com. Do you want to build character, build confidence, or even build yourself? All that and more can be accomplished at the Black Belt Institute at 23 New Street, right here in Metuchen. Students of all ages have been able to learn respect, discipline, fitness, and self-defense from their experienced instructors for over 20 years. Whether you're an adult looking for stress reduction or know someone young who has interest in Taekwondo, the Black Belt Institute is the place to go. The Institute takes a fun approach at teaching the rules of self-defense, instilling in their students an I-can-do-it attitude. Interested in taking a class? Call them at 732-205-9797 or visit their website at blackbeltinst.com. Once again, that's 732-205-9797 or blackbeltinst.com. The Black Belt Institute, Metuchen's leader in martial arts and fitness.
Welcome back to the Metuchen High School podcast, the online radio voice of MHS. I'm Kalegi here with another one of our new members this year, Senior Joe Stibich. We're also joined by Phil Xie, who's starting up a new club here at Metuchen High School, the Entrepreneurship Club. Phil, I know you just came back from your senior picture. Thanks for coming on today.
Great. Thanks for having me here, Eddie.
Yeah, you got it. So first thing I have to ask, because entrepreneurship, owning a business, it's something that some people enjoy, other people they're like drawn away from the idea. So how did you first develop an interest in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, sure. So as going way back to when I could first remember, I've always known that one day I wanted to start a company and do something I like. So this is partly due to my family influence. My dad and one of my uncles are both entrepreneurs, and it's only when I got to high school that I actually got more and more engaged into entrepreneurship.
So you kind of just touched on how you want to start your own business. Do you want to expand on that? What entices you about it?
Yeah, entrepreneurship is a great medley of an opportunity that allows people to follow their passion, solve a real problem in the world, and to help people, all the while getting paid for it. Of course, the passion part is what mainly draws me to entrepreneurship, to be creating something of my own and to potentially be able to look back on it and be proud of it. I think that's what really draws me in.
So whenever we do one of these club spotlights, I kind of want to find out the process of starting the club. And for you, I mean, this is different as well, because with the pandemic not actually being in person, it's a lot more difficult just to get into contact with teachers and the administration. So just take us through that process of starting the club, even though you've been home this whole time.
Right. So from last year, I kind of just noticed that entrepreneurship is becoming a big thing among young people, especially high school and college students. And I noticed the need that in our school we could really use more resource for our students to get involved in entrepreneurship. And so I got in touch with Mrs. Van de Castle, and with her help, we came up with a list of opportunities and activities that we could do, that we could bring outside the classroom and into a club setting, and potentially outside of the school. And so with this list of activities, we just wrote a proposal and handed in for the administration to approve.
Could you touch on some of these activities? Like what's gonna happen at the meetings? Why should people join?
Yeah, we have a wide array of fun and meaningful activities that allow students to explore and apply entrepreneurship inside or outside of school. So the club is primarily a great way for students to learn some basic entrepreneurship concepts and bounce business ideas off of each other in a very friendly, supportive environment. So we'll organize talk series from real entrepreneurs for students to learn directly from their experience. And then we allow students to practice these knowledge that they've learned about entrepreneurship in the club firstly, through say, improvised pitch activities, startup simulations, and analyzing case studies. And after that, we also allow students to bring entrepreneurship outside the classroom by letting them participate in pitching startup competitions, helping local stores do marketing, and potentially even form student-led startups.
Very cool. I like some of these plans, specifically having real life entrepreneurs talk. That's something that I feel like a lot of clubs sometimes tend to lack, maybe because they just don't have the resources. But especially if it's like career centric, like the Entrepreneurship Club, getting to hear from someone firsthand who actually does that as a daily job. So definitely very cool that you have that in the plan. So those are some of the things right now, but what are some of the long-term goals of the club?
Yeah, we're just starting out, and I hope that this club will grow year after year and getting more and more students to learn and practice entrepreneurship. And at the same time, we hope to give back to our community as well by, for example, volunteering to help local businesses to do marketing, as well as doing the most we can to help our local community through entrepreneurship.
This is all great. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for coming on today, Phil, and thank you to everybody who was here today, for our guests, Phil and Mr. Messenger, our two new members, Joe Stibich and Julie Hirschfield, and of course, Josh Hyman, and of course, our club advisor, Ms. Wisniewski, for making all of this possible. Until next time, I'm Eddie Kalegi signing off. We'll see you next time here on the Metuchen High School Podcast, the online radio voice of MHS.